Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. This earth-shattering trade that went down about a week or so ago we're still feeling the aftershock of what happened, and a lot of people are still reacting to it. But one of the people that we really didn't get a chance to hear from was the former majority owner or former owner of the Dallas Mavericks, who was Mark Cuban, right? The only bit of information that I got, that I reported on initially when the story broke, was that Luka said he texted Mark Cuban about the trade, and Mark Cuban said that he had no idea that the trade was going down. That is the only bit of information that we were able to glean from Luka as it pertains to Mark Cuban. So a lot of us are wondering, hey, what would Mark do? Because he famously said that he would rather go through a divorce than trade away Luka Doncic. That goes to show you how much he thought of Luka as a player, and justifiably. Okay, Luka is a once in a generation type of talent. He's absolutely spectacular. As a matter of fact, Luka Doncic currently holds the second highest scoring average, I believe, in NBA playoff history. It's actually crazy. The dude is averaging like 31 a game throughout his playoff career. So it's pretty bananas stuff there. So throughout the weekend, a particular video was circulating around the web. And this video featured a sit down that Mark Cuban had with former Microsoft CEO and Bill Gates. And they were talking about a bunch of things. And then during their conversation, Mark Cuban decides to ask Bill Gates a series of questions. And as he was asking the question, you could quickly realize that he was actually poking fun at Nico Harrison and the Dallas Mavericks for their ridiculous trade of trading away a 25-year-old Luka Doncic for a 32-year-old injury-prone Anthony Davis. So what we want to do now is want to play exactly what Mark Cuban had to say to Bill Gates about this trade, and then we're going to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to Mark Cuban here.
And so I wanted to start off with a question, because you've been in, unique situations, and maybe you can help. If after you left Microsoft, you found out that Steve Ballmer traded Windows 11, like the new hot operating system, for Windows 10, the Hall of Fame, but older operating. What would you do?
I might have to hide from the press.
I know a couple other people that are in that situation.
So you heard what former Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban had to say. What are my thoughts about this? I think Mark Cuban, although he's a minority owner of the team, still feels like these guys in the management are a bunch of idiots. As a matter of fact, we're now hearing that Nico Harrison is afraid for his life and his family's life because of the fan base out there in Dallas and how they're treating a situation that they're absolutely disgusted with the Mavs for pulling off that trade, and in specific, Nico Harrison. And to add salt to the injury to the wound, was that AD ended up getting injured in his debut game. And that's something we're going to touch on a little bit later, obviously, depending on the order in which you're seeing these shows. So it's just not a good situation out there in Dallas, man. It's not a good situation. When the trade went down, I said the Lakers won. The Mavs won immediately, yes, in the short term, but now it's not even looking like they did that. But overall, the Lakers won. Because the Lakers now got them their cornerstone player, their centerpiece player, going into the future for the next 10 years in Luka Doncic, who's 15 years younger than LeBron James, the player he's going to be replacing ultimately, and 7 years younger than Anthony Davis. So the Lakers got their guy. So if you're a Dallas Maverick fan or former owner like Mark Cuban, you're trying to understand why would this be why would you guys do this? Look at the piece you got back. It's not like as if the Mavs traded for SGA, a young MVP candidate. That would be one thing. You'd be like, okay, that's a fair trade-off. But you traded for 32-year-old injury-prone Anthony Davis? That doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's the point that Mark Cuban was pointing out with his comments. He even made a joke about Nico Harrison being afraid to come outside. He poked fun at that too. He's essentially saying like, bro, you pulled off the bozo move of the century. You got Rob Pelinka out here looking like the GM of he made arguably the best acquisition in the last, 20 years in the NBA? It's crazy. As you guys know, Anthony Davis was part of this blockbuster trade that went down between the Lakers and the Mavs, which sent Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers. A trade that almost everyone seems to be upset at. That's in the state of Texas, it seems, but certainly in the city of Dallas. So we had that situation there. After that, we started hearing word that Nico Harrison was receiving death threats and that he was afraid for his life and his family's life. We also heard that they were even afraid to put him in public display in the Mavs arena. So it's just a really messy situation. Then to add, then to make it even worse, AD comes out on his debut night with the team, and he's having a beast mode game. Like, he's going off in the first quarter. I think in 3 quarters, Anthony Davis had 26 points, 17 rebounds, and 7 assists and a couple of blocks. He was on his way to having a 40-point game, a monster game. And then in the third quarter, Anthony Davis inexplicably got injured with a non-contact injury. And the moment that happened, we actually went live and did a show about it on our channel. And people were just beside themselves. Like, wait, really? So you have a situation in which you traded away the city's a young star for a guy that's injury prone, and the fans are pissed off about that. Then on the opening tip-off of that game, he gets injured in that game. And I'm sure the Dallas Mavericks fans were absolutely deflated. And I'm sure it caused them to be even more upset with Nico Harrison and the Mavs management. So after AD got injured, a lot of us were speculating on what exactly the injury was, because it was a non-contact injury. Now, some of it thought it was a groin sprain or something like that. It wasn't going to be anything too severe. He'll probably be back in a few days. But as new information has come out, and we're reporting this from fadeawayworld.net, and it has the following headline. It says, Anthony Davis sidelined indefinitely after picking up groin injury in Mavericks debut. And now we're finding out that AD is going to be gone for an unspecified amount of time. And this is just devastating if I'm a Dallas Maverick. So let's get into what this article has to say here. It says, the Dallas Mavericks have gotten off to a horrible start in their new era after trading Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis and Max Christie. Davis made his Mavericks debut in an emphatic showing against the Houston Rockets, where he left the game in the third quarter with a groin injury. It has now been confirmed that Davis is expected to be injured for the foreseeable future, with Mark Stein deeming the return timetable as indefinite. It is feared that the Mavericks' newly acquired Anthony Davis will be sidelined for an indefinite period. With the severity of his adductor injury sustained Saturday still being determined, league sources tell the Stein line. Then continues on. Shams also reported on it, calling it a multiple-week absence that could last a month. Dallas Mavericks star Anthony Davis is expected to miss multiple weeks with the left abductor strain. Sources tell ESPN his absence could stretch to a month. This is going from bad to worse for the Mavericks. The fans have to reconcile with losing a 25-year-old superstar who the franchise thought was too injury prone for a 31-year-old star who has a career worth of games proving he's injury prone. If Davis misses 10 plus games over the next month, it will be his 7th double-digit game absence over the last 7 seasons. Luka has only one stretch of missing games this long since being drafted into the NBA, with this stretch coming off with his calf injury this season. So you heard what the report had to say there. What are my thoughts about this? it's sad, right? It's sad. It's sad that things are happening this way for the Dallas Mavericks, because a lot of this seems like it could have been avoided. A lot of it. This seems like a self-inflicted wound. Because now, if you're a Mavs fan, you're saying to yourself, our future just went right out the window. It just went right out the window. Here's another reason why, if I'm a Mavs fan, I'm absolutely dejected. The reason is because of the NBA standings. If you look at the Western Conference landscape right now, the Dallas Mavericks are the 8th seed. They're behind teams like the Clippers, the Wolves, the Lakers, and all of that. So they're in a jam-packed Western Conference, and now they're going to be without their centerpiece player for the next month, which means that there's a real chance that they could go tumbling down the standings. Golden State just got Jimmy Butler. Now, obviously, they had a win against the Chicago Bulls, which is nothing to write home about, but I expect them to move up in the standings. You still have the Suns there that are probably going to try to find a way to make a push. So if I'm a Mavs fan, you're like, now we're just hoping to be a bottom seed in a play-in tournament picture. Because with Anthony Davis missing a month, that's going to hurt. And who's to say that if he comes back, he's not going to get injured again? Who's to say? Who is to say? So for me, man, I really don't understand what the Mavs were doing here. I really don't understand the thought process here, because now it has to work with AD. It has to work. And when he comes back, you're just going to have your fingers crossed and hope that he doesn't get injured again. But that's a very big hope. And I really do feel bad for AD. I really do, because he was definitely blindsided by all of this. And I think that what's going to happen is, what's eventually going to happen is AD's going to realize that he's going to be forgotten as quickly as he was remembered by the Laker fan. Laker fans are going to forget about Anthony Davis. They're going to forget about him. They got the new shiny toy, and that's Luka Doncic. And Laker fans really only resonate with the big name guys. There are a few role players that I can think of them resonating with over the years, but that's where their attention is going to be right now. I don't think he's going to get any boos or anything like when he comes back. He's probably going to get a tribute video. I'm 100% certain of that. But the spotlight that he used to have playing alongside LeBron James in LA, all of that is gone. So I hope Anthony Davis is able to make a speedy recovery and really come back and show the world what he has. Everybody's pissed off. And by everybody, I'm talking about Dallas Mavericks fans with this Luka AD trade, especially given the fact that Anthony Davis just got injured on his first day playing with the Mavs. Just an absolute disaster of a situation. And in the aftermath of this shocking trade, Dallas Mavericks fans have been reeling. And one of the people that they've been just absolutely going off on and releasing all of their anger on is the general manager, Nico Harrison. We're hearing that he's getting death threats. The Dallas Mavericks had to bump up their security detail. They're looking to put him in different places in the arena where he will be out of sight of the NBA fans. It's just an absolute mess, right? A total mess was going on there. That's just one aspect of it. You then have the new ownership group, right? Who a lot of people they're new to the NBA, and a lot of people are trying to figure out who are these guys and do we need to be pissed off at them too? So what happened? This morning I was going through the internet and I came across an article from ESPN.com, and it says Maverick owner backs Doncic trade, says team isn't relocating, right? So not only did he back the trade, he also has some choice words for Luka. But that's not even the best part. The best part is what the former owner of the Dallas Mavericks had to say, and that was Mark Cuban. So recently, Mark Cuban was having a sit down with Bill Gates, and they were talking about a bunch of things. I'm sure tech-related, global issues related, whatever. And then Mark Cuban takes it upon himself to essentially start poking fun at the sheer stupidity of the Dallas Mavericks for trading away their 25-year-old superstar for Anthony Davis, an injury-prone player, and he had the whole crowd rocking and laughing. So what we want to do is we're going to quickly play what Mark Cuban had to say and then continue back on with the show. Take a listen to Mark Cuban here.
And so I wanted to start off with a question because you've been in, unique situations and maybe you can help. If after you left Microsoft, you found out that Steve Ballmer traded Windows 11, like the new hot operating system, for Windows 10, the Hall of Fame, but older operating system. What would you do?
I might have to hide from the press.
I know a couple other people that are in that situation.
So you heard what he had to say, right? So that's what Mark Cuban said. So as I was reading through the article, the owner, he's saying stuff, and I'm sitting there listening to what this dude is saying, like, yo, is he actually serious? Is he serious with what he's saying? So, okay, so let's get into what this article said. It says, Maverick owner Patrick Dumont acknowledged fans' frustration following the shocking decision to trade franchise superstar Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers, while still defending the move and making clear there are no plans to relocate the team from Dallas. Speaking for the first time after publicly about this trade, Dumont told the Dallas Morning News that it has been an emotional week for the franchise, which has seen its own fans protest outside the arena. I clearly understand that and really appreciate that, Dumont said about the fans' reaction to the blockbuster deal. I'm a big Luka fan. My family are big Luka fans. I have a really deep appreciation for what he brought to this team, what he brought to Dallas, and the excitement he brings. He's an electrifying player. I want you to know I really sympathize with all of our fans who feel hurt. Look, as far as I'm concerned, Luka is a Mav for life, and I wish him nothing but happiness and success in his career as he continues in LA. The Mavericks received 10-time All-Star Anthony Davis back in the trade, and in addition to the franchise, thinks it will help return to the NBA Finals. Dumont said the goal was top of mind when making the move. The Mavericks had struggled this season following their finals appearance last summer, most notably since Doncic went out with the calf strain on December 25th. Doncic's recent injury history has been tied to the conditioning concerns the Mavs have had about their star, according to a report from ESPN's Tim McMahon. Dumont reiterated statements made by general manager Nico Harrison that the team was focused on bringing in players who could help build and improve the Mavs culture, but he stopped short of saying Doncic didn't fit the culture. In my mind, the way teams win is by focus, by having the right character, by having the right culture, and having the right dedication to work as hard as possible to create a championship-winning outcome, Dumont told the Morning News. And if you're not doing that, you're going to lose. It then continues on. It says Dumont also addressed rumors that the trade was the first step in an attempt to move the Mavericks from Dallas to Las Vegas, which where much of his family's business is based. The Dallas Mavericks are not moving to Las Vegas, Dumont said. There's no question in that. That is the answer unequivocally. The Dallas Mavericks are the Dallas Mavericks, and they will be in Dallas. Now, what's interesting is that he also made some comments about Luka, talking about if you don't take the game seriously and not a hard worker like Kobe and all of these guys, then you're not serious. Then he brought up Shaq, and people like Bill Simmons are calling him out for saying, you clearly don't know the history of the sport, because if you're calling Shaq a hard worker, you don't know what you're talking about, because even Shaq himself said that he's not a hard worker. So you got all of these different things going on. Now, here's what's interesting about his comments. He's saying Luka's a man for life. Well, how is he a man for life if you traded him? I don't understand. Okay, so look, first things first. They're saying that Luka didn't fit the culture, right? Luka's had some rumors about him that he doesn't take his conditioning seriously. He drinks beers all over the place, so they've said. I don't know if that's true or not. So you have those things about him. Obviously, people within the Mavs organization would know that at a deeper level, and a lot of people feel like that's the reason that the organization was trepidatious about giving him this supermax contract that he was in place to earn. And by moving him to the Lakers, they now effectively cost him over $100 million in future earnings. So you have that they were reluctant to do that. You have what the owner just recently said about Luka, the fact that he's simply not a hard worker. You have that as well. And maybe all of these things turned off the organization in terms of them supporting Luka and decided that, hey, look, we need to move on from this guy, right? We need to move in a different direction. The fact of the matter is this: all of these things sound nice, but what ultimately is going to matter is whether or not this team is going to be competitive. Now, unless Nico Harrison has another rabbit that he's getting ready to pull out of his hat and go out there and get some mega superstar, your future is going to hinge on the production and availability of Anthony Davis. And we all know that Anthony Davis is injury prone, hence the fact he got injured on in his debut game against the Chicago, was it? No, not the Chicago Bulls, against the Houston Rockets for the Dallas Mavericks. He was having a beast mode game, 26 points, 17 rebounds, 7 assists in 3 quarters. Those are excellent numbers, but nevertheless, when AD went down, it totally deflated the entire arena, right? So all of this sounds good, but right now what people in Dallas are looking at is this thing going to pay off at all? Is it going to pay off? And if it doesn't, this was not a smart move. But hey, maybe they grew so fed up with Luka, they were like, you know what? We're going to kick the can down the road, and that's just it. We're done with him.